Welcome to the presentation, and let me ask you something before we begin. If the way most people train in the gym actually worked, why do many men over 60 feel like they're doing everything right and still not getting stronger? They're going to the gym, they're staying active, they're putting in the effort, and yet progress is slowing. Energy drops, recovery lags, and sometimes, instead of feeling stronger, they just feel more tired. So what's going on? Well, what if the problem isn't effort? What if the problem isn't discipline? What if the problem is that the system to train that they've been given, that they are following, was never designed for the body that they now have? Because the truth is, your body hasn't stopped responding, it's still adapting. But it's only going to respond to the right signal. Hello, this is Dr. Peter Murano, Old Man Muscle, and creator of the AMPK mTOR method. And today, my single goal is to show you how to get these proper signals working for you. This is something information-wise that we've all been needing. So are you ready? Let's go. I am so glad that you're able to join me today for this presentation, because today we're going to bring together strength, metabolism, and longevity into one unified system, the Strongevity System. It's a system that works with the biology of the aging body rather than against it. And I dare say, if you've been reading about or are into fitness training already, you know that there is no shortage of fitness advice. Train harder, train more often, lift heavier, push farther. Well, for a younger body, much of this will work, at least for a while. So, what I'm pointing out here is that training advice, exercising advice needs to be age appropriate. And for men over 60, we must recognize that some things do change. The progress in the gym will slow down, recovery will take longer, and our joints begin to speak to us more loudly than our muscles. Ouch! What once produced results now produces fatigue, or worse, pain, and possibly injury. But you know what? The bad part is the advice remains the same, and this is the disconnect. Most training systems out there are built on data that's derived from younger populations. Clearly, there is a real need for more research using older age groups. So the question becomes, why are we applying the same solutions that work for the young to the fundamentally different biological systems that are common to aging bodies? And I can tell you this, the aging body is not broken. It may be rusty, but it still possesses the basics. The problem is, it is simply operating under different constraints. And this makes it a big mistake to ignore. Recovery is slower. Adaptation is more selective. Gains are going to be less robust. And tolerance for hard training and large training volumes will definitely be reduced. And I know that some of us live in denial of these facts and try our best to ignore them. And when we do that, the most likely thing that will happen is we will get injured, and then we are out of the gym. And here's the paradox that we're left to face. The need for strength, stability, and resilience has never been greater than when we are older. At the exact stage of life when strength matters the most, the ability to build it is least supported by conventional methods. We have to find a better way. And my friends, despite what it may say on the poster hanging on the wall of the gym, the solution is not to push harder when you are older. Leave that for the 20 to 30-year-olds. The solution is to think and behave differently. In fact, many older adults are not inactive. They walk. They do go to the gym. They make the effort. And yet they remain stuck in what we can call the gray zone of consistent effort without much progress to show for it, however. The old expression that comes to my mind is spinning your wheels. And for those of us stuck in this gray zone, strength does not really seem to increase in spite of our training. Body composition does not seem to visually improve either. And energy levels, they seem to fluctuate unpredictably. And all of these things can lead to frustration and a sense of failure. However, I want to emphasize that this state of affairs is often misunderstood. It is not laziness, and it is not a lack of effort. What I believe it is as follows: a problem of signal clarity in the body. At the biological level, two key systems govern adaptation, growth and repair being one of the primary adaptations. And this is the metabolic regulator called mTOR, or a mechanistic target of rapamycin. The other drives energy efficiency and survival as the adaptations, and is the metabolic regulator called adenosine monophosphate activated protein kinase, or AMPK. Now, in the gray zone, activity is not intense enough to stimulate growth, and we're thinking here mainly about strength training activity, whereas movement and endurance-type movement, cardio workouts, and exercise is not sustained enough to improve metabolic efficiency. And then nutrition is neither supportive nor restrictive enough to drive change, and that's mainly the calories, the protein content, and also the carbs. And we won't forget the fat calories either. But the point is that protein, fat, and carbohydrate align differently on days when we're training for strength versus days where we're training for metabolic efficiency. So it's a package deal. The gray zone, in order to overcome it, we have to stimulate the body with the correct type of exercise at the correct time, and also the correct eating plan that follows that exercise plan. And in that way, the signaling will be appropriate. And still on the topic of the gray zone, in the gray zone, the result of our training is unpredictable. The body will maintain but not improve. Then this is where most people live, in the gray zone, and this is where most programs will fail, and I'm talking about exercise training programs. So at this point, we should all be wondering, what is the solution? Well, in order to move out of this gray zone, the body must receive clear instructions. And this is the foundation of the AMPK-mTOR method. So in a nutshell, rather than attempting to stimulate all systems at once, meaning growth, repair, rebuilding, energy conservation, and so forth, we separate them in time. So what we're really talking about here are mTOR and AMPK. One pathway is activated through resistance training and increased protein in the diet, and that's the mTOR growth and repair pathway, while the other is activated through sustained movement and controlled energy intake, and that's the AMPK pathway of metabolism, control, and energy deficit. And it's important to realize that AMPK and mTOR are not enemies of each other. They are complementary, but they respond best when they are not competing. In other words, when we separate the AMPK from the mTOR signal on alternate days. And we achieve this through our choice of exercise and choice of what to eat, quite frankly, on those days. And here's the key: the body adapts best when it has signal clarity. And I'm talking about AMPK signal and mTOR signal. Signal clarity rather than signal confusion. That gets us out of the gray zone. And quite frankly, this is what I love the most about the AMPK-mTOR method. It's simplicity, because in practical terms, what we're talking about is structuring training into two distinct days, days that are focused on building and preserving muscle versus days focused on movement, metabolism, and recovery. And then, of course, we have dietary plans to match those specific days and goals. So what I think I've achieved here with this method is to redefine training. Modern training emphasizes training volume, but in older adults, excess volume does not accelerate progress, it delays it. So we need another way, a better way. We need something that will work for our age group. Precision must come into the picture and become a key part of the equation. Precision in how we train, eat, rest, and recover so that precise signaling happens, and the result is quality adaptation. Speaking of precision, resistance training sessions are focused, intentional, moderate in volume, and are then sufficient to stimulate but not overwhelm. When we do things this way, we realize that it's not merely the quantity of work that drives the adaptations that we seek, those being strength and cardiovascular fitness. It is the quality of the stimulus. That's right, the stimulus being the AMPK and mTOR biological signals. And it is the separation, the quality, and clarity of the stimulus that creates a rhythm, not a constant push, but a cycle of stimulus and support. And it is within that AMPK-mTOR cycle that progress occurs. Training creates the signal, but the body requires resources in order to respond. Protein remains the foundation. Energy intake is adjusted by the day, depending on whether it's an AMPK day or an mTOR day. Supplements may provide support, but they do not replace training or nutrition. This leads to a simple hierarchy in which training creates the signal and nutrition supports the signal. When this hierarchy is respected, the system works. When it is reversed, progress stalls. We get back into that gray zone. So the goal is not to fight the aging process, my friends, but to understand it, work with it, and build strength within it. Well, that's it. We've finished for today. Thank you for taking the time to be here and to think more deeply with me about your health, your strength, and your future. If there's one thing that I want you to take away from our discussion today, it's this. Your body is not failing you. It's responding exactly as it was designed to at your age. And when you give it clearer signals, appropriate training, minimal stress, and the nutritional and rest support it needs, it will adapt, even now in older age. And you don't need to do more because I know you're already busy. But you might need to change your routine. You likely need to do more of what matters with purpose and consistency and with the right signaling, as I've outlined today. So start where you are. Keep it simple. Stay consistent, because strength is not only something you once had and lost, it's something you can rebuild now and continue to build. And the work you do today is what allows you to live stronger as well as longer tomorrow. And that, my friends, is what Strongevity is all about. This is Dr. Pete, wishing you all the best.